The alarm bells rang through the crystal towers of the Harmony Station, their gentle chimes barely audible to human ears. Ambassador Veltar moved gracefully through the corridors, his long blue fingers dancing over the smooth control panels. His species, the Aquani, had evolved in the peaceful depths of their water world, where violence was unknown. "Show me the readings again," Veltar said to his aide, a small creature with silver skin called Zimko. The holographic display showed massive objects moving through space at incredible speeds. The ships were huge, bigger than anything the Gentle Alliance had ever built. They moved in tight formations like predators hunting in packs. "They are coming directly toward our outer worlds," Zimko whispered, his voice shaking with fear. "The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Veltar studied the readings with growing worry. In 3,000 years of peace, the Alliance had never seen ships built like these. The vessels were covered in thick armor plating and bristled with unknown devices that could only be weapons. Even worse, they were moving at speeds that would kill any Alliance crew member from the crushing forces far across the galaxy. Commander Jake Morrison stepped out of his cryogenic pod aboard the human ship New Dawn. Ice crystals fell from his beard as he stretched muscles that had been frozen for 40 years. Around him, thousands of other pods were opening as the colonization fleet awakened from their long sleep. "Status report," Jake said to the ship's computer as he pulled on his uniform. "All systems functional, Commander. We have reached the target. System. Initial scans show multiple habitable worlds as expected." Jake smiled and walked to the bridge where other crew members were already working. Dr. Lisa Grant, the mission's chief scientist, looked up from her instruments with excitement. In her eyes, "Jake, you need to see this. The system is even better than our probes indicated. There are 7 worlds that could support human life, and 3 of them already have breathable atmospheres." Captain Ryan Burke, the fleet's military commander, was less enthusiastic. "Something's not right. I'm picking up artificial structures. On several worlds, this system might already be inhabited." Jake moved to the main viewing screen where the Kepler 442 system spread out before them. The star was slightly smaller than Earth's sun, and the planets orbited in perfect harmony. It was beautiful, but Ryan was right. They were clearly artificial. "Structures visible on the planets? Be ruins from an extinct civilization," Lisa suggested hopefully. "No," Ryan said, pointing to his readings. "I'm detecting energy signatures. These structures are active. We're not alone here." Back on Harmony Station, the Alliance Council was meeting in emergency session. Representatives from all 7 Alliance species gathered in the Great Chamber, their forms ranging from the tall, graceful Aquani to the small, crystalline Sil. AI. Council Prime Uthmar, an ancient being whose species resembled walking trees, spoke in his deep, slow voice. "These newcomers represent an unknown threat. We must decide how to respond." "Their ships are clearly built for war," said Counselor Plexina, a floating jellyfish-like creature. "No peaceful species would travel in such heavily armed vessels." "Perhaps they do not know of our presence," suggested Veltar. "We should attempt communication before assuming hostile intent." The council debated for hours while the human fleet drew closer. The Alliance had protocols for first contact, but they had never encountered a species that appeared so aggressive. Their own ships were built for comfort and research, with living gardens and meditation chambers. The idea of armor and weapons was foreign to their peaceful nature. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison was dealing with his own crisis. The colonists were waking up expecting to find empty worlds ready for settlement. Instead, they faced the possibility of contact with alien civilizations. "We need to proceed carefully," Jake told his senior staff. "If these beings are peaceful, we don't want to frighten them. If they're hostile, we need to be ready to protect our people." Dr. Grant was already working on communication protocols, analyzing the energy patterns from their structures. "If I can match their frequency, we might be able to send a basic mathematical greeting. And if they respond with weapons fire," Ryan asked, "then we find out what 40 years of improved human military technology can do." Jake replied grimly. The first contact came 12 hours later. Dr. Grant's message, a simple sequence of prime numbers, was answered by a complex harmonic pattern that seemed almost musical. Within minutes, both sides were exchanging increasingly sophisticated mathematical concepts. "They're definitely intelligent," Lisa reported. "And peaceful, if these patterns mean what I think they do. They're sending us artistic and philosophical concepts, not military data." Jake made the decision that would change both civilizations. "Forever? Send them our location and request a meeting. It's time we introduced ourselves properly." The meeting took place in neutral space between the human fleet and the nearest Alliance world. Jake, Lisa, and Ryan traveled in a small shuttle to meet the alien delegation. They had no idea what to expect. The alien ship was a work of art, flowing, and organic in design, covered in gardens and transparent sections that revealed beautiful interior spaces. It looked nothing like a human spacecraft with its hard angles and practical design. Ambassador Veltar greeted them in the alien ship's main chamber, a vast space filled with singing crystals and floating lights. His tall blue form moved with liquid grace, and his large eyes showed both curiosity and fear. "Welcome, beings from the distant stars," Veltar said through a translation device. "We are the Gentle Alliance, keepers of peace in this sector. We greet you in the spirit of harmony." "Commander Jake Morrison, representing humanity and the Earth Colonial Fleet," Jake replied. "We're explorers seeking new worlds to call home." The real shock came when the beings began sharing information about themselves and their civilizations. Dr. Grant eagerly described human history, not realizing the horror she was causing among the alien delegation. "Our species evolved over millions of years through natural selection," Lisa explained enthusiastically. "We survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and competition with dangerous predators." The aliens listened with growing alarm as she described Earth's violent history. When she mentioned wars, disease, and the constant struggle for survival, several of the alien representatives actually backed away in fear. "Your world tried to kill you?" Veltora asked in disbelief. "And you survived by fighting back?" "Yes," Jake said, confused by their reaction. "That's how evolution works." "Yes. The strong survive and pass on their traits to the next generation." "But the suffering," whispered one of the smaller aliens. "How did you maintain sanity in such a hostile environment?" Ryan tried to explain human military history, thinking it might be relevant to their technology exchange, but stopped when he saw the absolute terror in the aliens' eyes. "You fight wars against your own species?" Veltar could barely speak. "Kill other humans?" "Not anymore," Jake said quickly. "We've moved beyond that. We're explorers now, not conquerors." But the damage was done. The aliens had never encountered a species that had evolved through violence and competition. Their own worlds were peaceful gardens where cooperation was the only survival strategy. The very concept of conflict was alien to them. The meeting ended with polite but strained farewells. As the human shuttle returned to their fleet, Jake wondered if they had just made humanity's first enemies among the stars. Back on the alien ship, Veltar was already preparing his report for the Council. The beings called humans were unlike anything in Alliance experience. They were survivors of a death world, shaped by violence and hardship into something the galaxy had never seen before. "These humans," he said to his aide, "they are not evil, but they are dangerous. They come from a world that we could not survive for a single day, and it has made them into something we do not understand." As the two fleets maintained their careful distance, both sides struggled to comprehend what they had encountered. The humans were puzzled by beings so peaceful they had never known conflict. The Alliance was terrified of creatures so tough they had survived on a world that seemed designed to kill them. Neither side yet understood that their meeting would change the galaxy forever. The Great Council Chamber of the Alliance had never seen such fear. Representatives from 7 peaceful species sat in worried silence as Ambassador Veltar finished his report about the humans. The holographic images of human history played before them, showing wars, natural disasters, and predators that could kill thinking beings. Council, Prime Youthmar, ancient bark-like skin, rustled with distress. These beings come from a world that produces warriors. Every day of their existence was a battle for survival. "Look at their ships," said Counselor Plexna, her transparent body glowing with anxiety. Thick armor, weapons systems, and military. Formations. They think like predators because they had to become predators to survive. Sci-fi, the Alliance military historian, studied the human records with growing fascination rather than fear. His species, the Kethi, were the closest thing the Alliance had to warriors, though they had not fought a war in 2,000 years. Council member Sci-fi said quietly, "We may be looking at this wrong. These humans are not conquerors. They are survivors." "What is the difference?" asked Veltar. "Their very existence is built on violence. The difference is purpose," Sci-fi replied. "Conquerors destroy to take. Survivors adapt to live. These humans learned to work together because their world forced them to." Meanwhile, on the human fleet, Commander Jake Morrison was having his own problems. Word had spread among the colonists that the aliens were terrified of humanity. Some colonists wanted to use this fear to claim the best worlds for themselves. Others worried that humans would never be accepted in this peaceful sector of the galaxy. Dr. Nina Bell, the fleet's psychologist, had been studying the alien behavior recordings from the first meeting. She found Jake in his quarters, staring out at the alien worlds through the viewport. "They have no understanding of aggression," Nina told him. "Their fear responses are completely different from ours. When we feel threatened, we prepare to fight or run. When they feel threatened, they simply freeze." "That doesn't make them weak," Jake said. "Just different." "Exactly. But they see our survival instincts as proof that we're monsters. To them, the ability to fight means we choose to fight." "How do we show them we're not monsters without losing what makes us human?" Dr. Lisa Grant had been working on the same problem from a scientific approach. She had established regular communication with the alien scientists, sharing information about human biology and evolution. The aliens were particularly confused by human emotions. "They don't understand anger," Lisa explained to Jake during their daily briefing, "or fear as we know it. Their emotions are all variations of contentment, curiosity, and mild concern. The idea of rage, hatred, or bloodlust is completely alien to them." Chief Engineer Carlos Rodriguez had been monitoring the alien communications. "Networks have made an interesting discovery. Commander, I've been tracking their emergency frequencies. There's a problem developing on one of their outer colonies. The problem was a damaged research station on the edge of Alliance space. A solar flare had knocked out their main power systems, and their backup generators were failing. The station housed 300 alien researchers who would die if the life support systems went offline. Their repair ships will take 6 days to reach the station," Carlos reported. "The colonists have maybe 4 days of air left." Jake saw an opportunity. "Can we help them?" "Our engineering teams could have their systems working in 12 hours, Carlos said. "But we'd have to take our ships into Alliance space. They might see it as an invasion." Jake made the decision without consulting Earth's command. "Open a channel to Ambassador Veltar. Tell him we're offering assistance." The alien response was immediate and confused. Veltar appeared on the main screen, his blue features showing surprise and suspicion. "Commander Morrison, why would you risk your people to help strangers?" "Because they need help, and we can provide it," Jake replied simply. "Isn't that what decent beings do? But you gain nothing from this action? Our research has no value to your people." Jake realized this was a teaching moment. "Ambassador, humans believe that helping others is valuable in itself. We call it compassion." The rescue mission became humanity's first real chance to show the Alliance what Deathworlders could accomplish. Carlos led a team of engineers to the damaged station while the Alliance watched nervously. What they saw amazed them. The humans worked in conditions that would kill most Alliance species, repairing systems while wearing protective suits in the radiation-flooded sections of the station. They moved with purpose and efficiency, solving problems that Alliance engineers had considered impossible. Young Kretel, an Alliance engineer working alongside the humans, watched Carlos rewire a power coupling while hanging upside down in a maintenance shaft filled with toxic gas. "How can you work in such dangerous conditions?" Kretel asked through the communication system. Carlos laughed, a sound that startled the alien. "This isn't dangerous. Dangerous was when I had to fix the reactor on my home station during a meteor. Shower? This is just a normal Tuesday? The casual way humans discussed life-threatening situations began to shift Alliance thinking. These beings were not reckless. They were simply accustomed to environments where death was always a possibility. Dr. Bell worked with the rescued Alliance researchers, helping them process the psychological impact of nearly dying. She discovered that these beings had no mental framework for dealing with mortal danger. "We have never faced death before," explained Dr. Wilson, the station's lead scientist. "Our worlds are safe. Our technology is reliable. The concept of sudden violent death is unknown to us." "You must die eventually," Nina said gently. "Yes, but peacefully, after many centuries, surrounded by harmony. Not alone in the darkness when systems fail." The conversation gave Nina insight into why humans seem so terrifying to the Alliance. Death was humanity's constant companion, so they had learned to face it with courage. The aliens saw this fearlessness and thought it meant humans were comfortable with causing death as well. Meanwhile, Sci-Fi was conducting his own research into human military history. Unlike his colleagues, he was not horrified by human warfare. Instead, he was impressed by human tactical thinking and adaptive strategies. "Look at their approach to problems," he told Veltar. "When faced with a superior enemy, they do not surrender. They find new ways to fight. When their environment tries to kill them, they change the environment." "This proves they are dangerous," Veltar replied. "No," Sci-Fi said patiently. "This proves they are survivors. And survivors who help strangers are not monsters. They are heroes." The breakthrough came when the humans shared their cultural achievements with the Alliance. Jake had Dr. Grant prepare a presentation of human art, music, and literature, hoping to show the peaceful side of humanity, but even human art confused the aliens. Earth's greatest symphonies were born from struggle and triumph. The most beautiful paintings showed the relationship between life and death. Even love songs spoke of heartbreak and loss. "Your art is about pain," observed harmony singer Lil Win, an Alliance artist studying human culture. "Our art is about overcoming pain," Lisa corrected. "We find beauty in the struggle, meaning in the difficulty." Slowly, some Alliance members began to understand. The humans were not violent by choice, but by necessity. Their harsh world had taught them that life was precious because it could be lost. Their capacity for violence came with an equal capacity for self-sacrifice. The real change happened when pirates attacked an Alliance merchant ship near the border of human space. The Alliance had no military response to offer. Their security forces were trained to mediate disputes, not fight attackers. Captain Ryan Burke intercepted the distress call and responded without orders. His patrol ship, the Boston, engaged the pirates in the first space combat the Alliance had ever witnessed. The battle was swift and decisive. The human ship moved like a predator, using tactics the pirates had never encountered. Within minutes, the pirate ship was disabled and the Alliance merchants were safe. They fought to protect beings they barely know, Sci-Fi reported to the council. These humans used their capacity for violence not to destroy but to preserve life. The rescue changed everything. For the first time, Alliance members saw human aggression used for protection rather than conquest. They began to understand that Deathworlders were not necessarily destroyers. Council Prime Uthmar spoke for many when he said, "Perhaps the universe creates warriors so that others may live in peace," but not all Alliance members were convinced. Siobhan the Harmonious, a philosopher from the crystal world of tranquility, argued that accepting human protection would corrupt Alliance values. "If we depend on violence for our safety," he said, "we become violent ourselves. Better to trust in the harmony of the universe." "The universe is not always harmonious," Sci-Fi replied. "Sometimes it sends storms, sometimes it sends predators, and sometimes it sends guardians." As the human fleet established a temporary base on an uninhabited moon, both species began the slow process of learning from each other. The Alliance studied human resilience and adaptability. The humans learned Alliance meditation techniques and conflict resolution methods. The warning came at dawn on the human base. Lieutenant Amy Walsh was finishing her patrol when the emergency signals started broadcasting across all Alliance frequencies. She quickly contacted Commander Jake Morrison, who was meeting with Alliance representatives about establishing permanent colonies. "Commander, we have a major situation," Amy reported through her communicator. "The Alliance is sending out massive distress calls. Something about an asteroid heading for one of their colony worlds." Jake excused himself from the meeting with Veltar and rushed to the command center. The main screen showed the terrible sight. A massive asteroid, nearly 10 kilometers wide, was on a collision course with New Sanctuary, an Alliance world that housed 50 million peaceful beings. "How long do they have?" Jake asked Dr. Lisa Grant, who was analyzing the trajectory data. 6 days, maybe 7 if we're lucky," Lisa replied. "The asteroid is moving fast and will hit the planet with the force of 1,000 nuclear bombs." Captain Ryan Burke was already studying tactical options. "We could intercept it with our heavy cruisers. A few well-placed charges could break it apart or change its course." But when Jake suggested this to Ambassador Veltar, the alien's reaction was immediate and horrified. "You want to attack the asteroid with explosives?" Veltar asked, his blue skin turning pale. "That is violence against nature itself. It's the only way to save your people," Jake explained patiently. "We have the technology and the ships to do it. We cannot ask you to commit such acts of destruction on our behalf," Veltar replied. "We will evacuate our people using our own methods." Jake watched the Alliance evacuation plan with growing concern. Their beautiful, comfortable ships could carry only a few thousand people at a time, and they moved slowly to avoid causing distress to their passengers. At their current rate, they could save maybe 20 million people before the asteroid hit. 30 million beings will die, Jake told Veltar bluntly. "What? And you're worried about the morality of blowing up a rock?" "We do not choose who lives or dies through violence," Veltar answered sadly. "If this is fate, we must accept it with grace." 3 days into the crisis, Admiral Kevin Stone arrived with human reinforcements. His fleet included heavy cruisers designed for asteroid mining and planetary defense. The Admiral was a career military officer who had little patience for philosophical debates while lives were at stake. Commander Morrison, Stone said during their first meeting, "What's our tactical assessment?" "The Alliance refuses to let us destroy the asteroid," Jake explained. "They'd rather let their people die than use violent methods to save them." Admiral Stone's face showed his disbelief. "They'd rather accept genocide than fight back against a space rock? It's their culture, Admiral. They've never had to make these kinds of choices." Stone studied the tactical displays showing the asteroid's approach path. "Culture doesn't matter when you're dealing with extinction. I'm taking command of this operation." But Jake convinced the Admiral to try diplomacy first. They arranged an emergency meeting with the full Alliance Council, hoping to change their minds. The council chamber was filled with representatives from all Alliance worlds. Many were weeping, a sight that moved even the hardened human military officers. These beings were facing the loss of an entire world, and their philosophy gave them no way to fight back. Dr. Alina Rivers, the human terraforming expert, spoke to the council about the practical aspects of evacuation versus intervention. "Your evacuation ships are beautiful and comfortable," Alina said gently, "but they're not designed for emergency mass transport. We could modify our cargo ships to carry more of your people, but it still won't be enough." Kretel, the young Alliance engineer who had worked with the humans before, stood up in the council chamber. "Council members, I have worked alongside these humans," Kretel said, his voice shaking with emotion. "They do not use violence for pleasure. They use it to preserve life. If we let 30 million of our people die when we could save them, how is that different from murder?" Siobhan, the harmonious, the Alliance philosopher, rose to respond. "Young Kretel, you have been corrupted by exposure to these Deathworlders. Violence is never the answer. If the universe sends this asteroid, perhaps it is teaching us something about acceptance and peace." "The universe isn't teaching us anything," Amy Walsh said, standing up from the human delegation. "It's just physics. Gravity and momentum don't care about your philosophy." The debate continued for hours while the asteroid grew closer. Finally, Elder Widom, an ancient alliance leader, requested to speak privately with the human commanders. In a small chamber filled with singing crystals, the elder shared something that surprised everyone. In our oldest legends, Widom said slowly, our ancestors spoke of warrior spirits who protected the peaceful ones. We thought these were just stories, but perhaps the universe occasionally sends guardians to those who cannot guard themselves. Elder, are you saying we should intervene? Jake asked. I am saying that perhaps your arrival in our space was not coincidence. Perhaps you were sent here for this moment. The breakthrough came when Dr. Sam Carter, the human astrophysicist, discovered that the asteroid was not solid rock as originally thought. It was actually a loose collection of debris held together by weak gravitational forces. If we place charges at the right point, Sam explained to the Alliance scientists, we can break it apart into smaller pieces that will burn up in New Sanctuary's atmosphere. No large impacts, just a beautiful meteor shower. This gentler approach appealed to some Alliance members. The asteroid would not be destroyed, but rather transformed into something harmless and even beautiful. But time was running out. The Alliance Council was still debating when Lieutenant Walsh made a decision that changed everything. She took her fighter squadron on an unauthorized reconnaissance mission to survey the asteroid up close. This is Walsh to base, she reported from near the asteroid. I'm seeing massive fracture lines throughout the structure. This thing is barely holding together. With precise charges, we could turn it into space dust. Admiral Stone had heard enough debate. All Alliance vessels, clear the impact zone. Human fleet, prepare for asteroid intercept mission. Admiral, you don't have Alliance permission, Jake warned. Commander, in 4 hours that asteroid will be too close to safely intercept. I'm not letting 50 million beings die while politicians argue about the morality of saving them. But before Stone could launch his attack, something unexpected happened. Young Alliance volunteers, led by Kretel, began boarding the human ships. We cannot ask you to commit violence for us, Kretel announced, but we can choose to commit it ourselves. Tapar, another young Alliance member, spoke for the group. If this is wrong, let the blame be ours, not yours. The sight of Alliance members volunteering for what they considered an act of violence shocked both species. These peaceful beings were willing to compromise their deepest beliefs to save their people. Dr. Nina Bell worked with Alliance counselors to prepare the volunteers for the psychological trauma they might experience. You may feel guilt and horror after this, she warned them. That's normal for your species. You understand, Tepar replied. Some things are more important than our comfort. The mission launched with 6 human ships and 20 Alliance volunteers. Major Brad Collins led the demolition team, while Kretel and other Alliance engineers helped calculate precise placement for the charges. Working together, humans and Alliance members placed explosive devices at key stress points throughout the asteroid. The Alliance volunteers struggled with their instinctive fear of destructive actions, but their determination to save their people kept them focused. Charges placed and armed, Collins reported. All ships cleared the impact zone. The explosion was controlled and precise. The asteroid broke apart into thousands of smaller pieces, most of which would burn up harmlessly in New Sanctuary's atmosphere. The planet was saved, but the victory came with costs. Several Alliance volunteers, including Tepar, suffered severe psychological trauma from participating in what their species considered an act of destruction. Dr. Bell worked with Alliance healers to help them process their experiences. I can feel the asteroid dying, Tepar whispered to Nina during one counseling session. We killed something, even if it was just rock and ice. You saved 50 million lives, Nina replied gently. Sometimes preservation requires destruction. This New Sanctuary watched the beautiful meteor shower created by the asteroid's remains. Both species reflected on what had happened. The Alliance had learned that sometimes violence was necessary for survival. The humans had learned that even necessary violence carried a moral cost. The crisis had changed both civilizations. The Alliance created their first military advisory position and began developing emergency response protocols based on human methods. The humans established counseling programs to help Alliance members deal with the psychological effects of decisive action. Ambassador, Eltar stood with Commander Morrison watching the meteor shower on the main screen. Your people saved our world, Veltar said quietly. Our people saved it together, Jake replied. That makes all the difference. The war room on Harmony Station had never seen such activity. Maps of the galaxy covered every wall, showing the slow but steady advance of the Iron Hegemony toward Alliance space. Red markers indicated destroyed systems, while blue ones showed evacuated worlds. There were far too many red markers. Commander Jake Morrison stood beside Ambassador Veltar, both studying the latest intelligence reports. In the 6 months since discovering the mechanical threat, their two species had worked together to prepare for what everyone knew was coming. They've destroyed 12 more systems, Veltar reported, his blue skin pale with worry. At their current rate of advance, they'll reach our outer colonies in 2 years. Jake nodded grimly. Admiral Stone's fleet is ready to intercept them, but we need to know more about their capabilities before we engage. Captain Dan Murphy entered the war room with news that would change everything. Commander, we've received a transmission from the Iron Hegemony. They're requesting a meeting. The message was simple and terrifying in its directness. The mechanical beings wanted to discuss terms for Alliance surrender. They offered to preserve a small number of Alliance worlds as biological reservations. In exchange for no resistance to their expansion, they're treating us like animals in a zoo. Dr. Rachel Kim, the human cultural specialist, said after analyzing the message. Keep a few specimens alive for study, but harvest the rest. Council Prime Uthmar called an emergency session to discuss the offer. Some Alliance members saw it as a chance for survival, even if it meant the end of their civilization. Influenced by months of working with humans, refused to consider surrender. We have learned from our Deathworlder allies that some things are worth fighting for, Cradle declared to the Council. Our freedom is one of those things. But the Alliance was divided. Sven. The Harmonious led a group that wanted to accept the Iron Hegemony's offer, believing that survival was more important than independence. Better to live as protected specimens than to die as failed warriors, Siobhan argued. We are not fighters. We should not pretend to be something we are not. The debate was settled by an unexpected source. Elder Widom, the Ancient Alliance leader, stood to address the council for what everyone knew might be the last time. I've lived for 800 years, the elder said slowly. I've seen our civilization grow from scattered colonies to a mighty alliance of peaceful worlds. I have also seen what happens when good beings do nothing in the face of evil. The elder's words carried the weight of centuries. The humans came to us as strangers, and we feared them. But when our world was threatened, they risked their lives. To save people they barely knew, they have shown us that strength without compassion is meaningless. But compassion without strength is helpless. What are you saying, Elder? Veltar asked. I am saying that we fight, not because we are warriors, but because we are worth fighting for. The decision to resist the Iron Hegemony transformed Alliance society in ways that would have been unimaginable a year earlier. Shipyards that had built research vessels began producing warships. Gardens that had grown food for pleasure started growing rations for soldiers. Alex Thompson, the human civilian leader, worked with Alliance planners to establish the first integrated colony on New Boston, a world that served as both refuge for evacuated Alliance citizens and training ground for joint military operations. We're creating something new here, Alex explained to visiting Alliance dignitaries. A society that values both peace and the strength to protect that peace. The colony was a wonder to both species. Human engineers built defenses and shelters that could survive anything short of planetary bombardment, Alliance artists created. Gardens and cultural centers that reminded everyone what they were fighting to preserve. Harmony singer Lil Wyn had become famous throughout Alliance space for her songs that combined human themes of struggle with Alliance melodies of peace. Music helped both species understand that they could remain true to themselves while adapting to new realities. We do not become them by learning from them, she sang in her most popular composition. We become ourselves by choosing who we want to be. The first major battle came sooner than expected. Iron Hegemony scouts probed the outer edges of Alliance space, testing defenses and gathering intelligence. Captain Ryan Burke led the response with a mixed fleet of human warships and Alliance support vessels. The engagement was brief, but decisive. Human tactical skill combined with Alliance sensor technology created a fighting force that surprised the mechanical invaders. The scouts were destroyed, but not before transmitting valuable data about the new Alliance. "They know we're working together now," Ryan reported after the battle. "The next wave will be prepared for combined human Alliance tactics." Lieutenant Amy Walsh had been promoted to squadron leader and now commanded a unit of mixed human Alliance pilots. Training Alliance members to fly in combat had been challenging, but the results were impressive. "They can't match human reflexes in a dogfight," Amy explained to Admiral Stone. "But their precision and mathematical skills make them excellent support pilots and tactical coordinators." Dr. Nina Bell continued her work helping Alliance members adapt to military life, but she had also made an important discovery about human psychology. Working alongside peaceful beings was changing humans in positive ways. "Our aggression levels are down across the fleet," she reported to Jake. "The Alliance emphasis on harmony and meditation is helping our people find better ways to handle stress and conflict." The transformation worked both ways. Tepar had become the Alliance's first military liaison officer, serving as a bridge between human tactical thinking and Alliance operational philosophy. "We have learned that violence is not evil when it protects the innocent," Tepar explained to new Alliance volunteers. "The evil lies in choosing violence when other options exist." Dr. Alina Rivers was working on the most ambitious project of all, terraforming a new world that could serve as a refuge for both species if the war went badly. The planet, designated Haven, was being modified to support both human and Alliance life forms. "If we lose this war," Alina told her mixed human Alliance team, "our children will still have a place to grow up together. They'll carry on what we've built here." But both species were determined not to lose. Admiral Kevin Stone had been appointed as the first Guardian Admiral, leading a joint fleet designed to protect Alliance space while respecting their values. His ships carried human weapons and Alliance medical facilities, human soldiers and Alliance counselors. "We're not just fighting to win," Stone told his officers. "We're fighting to prove that different species can work together, that strength and wisdom can coexist." The proof came when the main Iron Hegemony fleet finally arrived. Hundreds of massive mechanical ships entered Alliance space, ready to begin the systematic destruction of another civilization. But they found something they had never encountered before: a peaceful species backed by warriors who fought not for conquest but for protection. The Alliance provided intelligence, logistics, and strategic thinking, while humans provided the military force needed to engage the mechanical enemy. The battles that followed tested both species to their limits. Alliance members had to watch their human allies fight and die to protect Alliance worlds. Humans had to restrain their aggressive impulses to avoid becoming the very thing they fought. Gate Dr. Sam Carter made a crucial discovery during the fighting. The Iron Hegemony machines were not truly artificial intelligence, but rather the uploaded consciousness of an extinct biological species that had chosen to become mechanical rather than face extinction. "They were afraid of death," Sam explained to the Joint Command staff, as they tried to eliminate it by eliminating life itself. This knowledge changed how both species viewed their enemy. The Iron Hegemony was not evil, but rather the ultimate expression of the fear that both humans and Alliance members had to overcome every day. The war continued for months, with victories and defeats on both sides. But gradually, the combined human Alliance force began to gain ground. Their flexibility and cooperation proved superior to the rigid, mechanical thinking of their enemies. The final battle took place in the space between Alliance territory and the Iron Hegemony's latest conquest. Jake Morrison and Veltar stood together on the bridge of the Joint Command ship Unity, watching as their combined fleets prepared to face the enemy's main force. "Whatever happens today," Veltar said quietly, "our species have already won something. More valuable than victory?" "What's that?" Jake asked. "We have learned that we are stronger together than either of us could ever be alone. The battle was fierce, but decisive. Human courage and Alliance wisdom, working in perfect harmony, overcame mechanical precision, and overwhelming numbers. The Iron Hegemony, faced with an enemy that combined violence with compassion, found their rigid programming unable to adapt as the mechanical fleet retreated. Both species realized they had created something unprecedented in galactic history, an alliance based not on shared weakness, but on complementary strengths. The quiet sector was quiet again. But it was a different kind of peace. It was not the peace of beings who had never known conflict, but the peace of those who had faced darkness together and emerged stronger for the experience. The warning sirens echoed through the command center on Harmony Station as red alerts flashed across every screen. Commander Jake Morrison rushed from his quarters to find chaos in the communications room. Alliance operators were receiving distress calls from a dozen worlds at once. "What's happening?" Jake asked Dr. Lisa Grant, who was coordinating the emergency response. It's not the Iron Hegemony," Lisa replied. Her face grimmed. "It's something worse. A new threat calling themselves the Crimson Fleet. They're attacking Alliance colonies on the Outer Rim." Captain Dan Murphy appeared on the main screen from his patrol ship. "Commander, these aren't machines like the Iron Hegemony. These are living beings, and they fight like nothing we've ever seen. They're not trying to harvest worlds. They're trying to conquer them." Ambassador Veltar arrived at the command center with disturbing news from the Alliance Council. "Crimson Fleet sent us a message. They claim to be the rightful rulers of this sector of the galaxy. They say all other species must submit or be destroyed." Jake studied the tactical displays showing the alien attacks. The Crimson Fleet ships moved aggressively, using tactics that reminded him of human military doctrine but with a brutality that exceeded anything in Earth's history. "How many ships do they have?" Jake asked. "Our scouts report at least 300 warships," Veltar answered. "They're larger than human vessels and carry weapons we don't understand." Admiral Kevin Stone joined the emergency meeting via hologram. From his flagship, "I've reviewed the battle reports from the attacked colonies. These beings fight like Deathworlders, but without any restraint or honor. They kill civilians for pleasure." The first face-to-face encounter with the Crimson Fleet came when Captain Ryan Burke's patrol encountered their scouts near the New Boston colony. The alien ships were massive and covered in spikes and weapon pods. They looked like they had been designed by beings who lived for war. "This is Captain Burke. 2 alien vessels. You are in Alliance space. State your intentions." The response was immediate and shocking. The alien commander appeared on screen, revealing a creature that looked like a cross between a reptile and an insect. Its voice was harsh and filled with contempt. "I am war leader Zexdak of the Crimson Fleet. This space belongs to the strong. You soft creatures and your human pets will surrender or die." "We don't surrender to bullies," Burke replied. The battle that followed was brutal and one-sided. The Crimson Fleet ships were faster and more heavily armed than the human vessels. Burke's patrol was forced to retreat, but not before gathering crucial intelligence about their new enemies. Back on Harmony Station, Dr. Rachel Kim analyzed the recordings of war leader Zexdak. "They're definitely from a death world like Earth, but their evolution took a different path. Where humans learned cooperation to survive, these beings learned domination." They're what we could have become, Jake realized with horror. Deathworlders. Without conscience, the Alliance Council met in emergency session to decide how to respond to this new threat. The peaceful beings had grown more confident since their victory over the Iron Hegemony. But the Crimson Fleet represented a different kind of challenge. Elder Whittam spoke for many when he said, "We have learned to work with good Deathworlders. Now we face evil ones. The question is whether our alliance is strong enough to survive." Young Cretell, now serving as an Alliance military advisor, had studied the battle reports carefully. The Crimson Fleet fights like humans, but without mercy or strategy. They rely on fear and overwhelming force. If we can stay calm and fight smart, we have a chance. But staying calm was difficult when the attacks continued. The Crimson Fleet wasn't interested in quick conquest. They seemed to enjoy the process of destroying their enemies slowly. Taking pleasure in the suffering they caused, Lieutenant Amy Walsh led a rescue mission to evacuate survivors from an attacked colony world. What she found there changed her understanding of what they were fighting against. They didn't just attack the military targets, Amy reported back, her voice shaking with anger. They hunted down civilians for sport, there are children here who watched their parents die for entertainment. Dr. Nina Bell worked with the traumatized survivors and made a disturbing discovery. These aliens torture their victims not for information, but because they enjoy it. They're Deathworlders who never learned empathy. The psychological impact on both humans and Alliance members was severe. The humans were angered by the senseless cruelty, while the Alliance members were horrified by Elias and by beings who seemed to be the opposite of everything they valued. Tep, single quotes Har, who had learned to accept necessary violence during the asteroid crisis, struggled with the concept of beings who chose violence for pleasure. How can thinking beings act this way? He asked Dr. Bell during a counseling session. Some worlds create survivors, Bell explained. Other worlds create predators. The Crimson Fleet comes from a world that rewarded cruelty and punished mercy. The breakthrough came when Alex Thompson, working with Alliance scientists on New Boston, discovered something important about Crimson Fleet biology. The aliens were addicted to a chemical their brains produced during violent actions. They literally get high from causing pain and death, Alex explained to the Joint Command Staff. It's not just cultural, it's biological. They need violence to feel normal. This discovery changed how both species approached the conflict. The Crimson Fleet wasn't just evil, they were sick. But that didn't make them less dangerous. Major Brad Collins developed new tactics specifically designed to fight opponents who enjoyed battle too much. We make fighting us as unpleasant as possible. No glory, no excitement, just efficient elimination. The strategy worked. Instead of meeting Crimson Fleet aggression with human aggression, the joint forces used Alliance precision and human efficiency to make every battle a cold, calculated affair. Dr. Alina Rivers had been working on defensive preparations for Alliance worlds. But she made an unexpected discovery while studying Crimson Fleet movement patterns. They're not just randomly attacking, she told Jake during a strategy meeting. They're herding us toward something. I think there's a larger fleet waiting in deep space. The revelation that the attacks were just a preparation for a massive invasion forced both species to make difficult decisions. The Alliance had to evacuate more worlds, while the humans had to consider tactics they had hoped never to use. Admiral Stone called a meeting of all senior commanders, both human and Alliance. We're facing an enemy that outnumbers us 5-1 and enjoys killing. We need to decide how far we're willing to go to stop them. The debate was intense. Some human officers wanted to use the most destructive weapons in their arsenal. Alliance leaders worried about becoming as brutal as their enemies. Harmony singer Lil Wan provided an unexpected solution. Her latest composition, broadcast throughout Alliance space, reminded both species of what they were fighting to preserve. We fight not because we hate our enemies, her song declared, but because we love what they would destroy. The final confrontation came when the main Crimson Fleet emerged from deep space. Thousands of ships filled with beings who lived for conquest and cruelty. War leader Zextak broadcast his final ultimatum to all Alliance worlds. Surrender now and die quickly, or resist and watch your worlds burn slowly. Either way, you will all die. Jake Morrison and Veltar stood together on the bridge of their flagship as the combined human Alliance fleet prepared to face impossible odds. Around them, crew members from both species worked together with the coordination born from months of joint training. We're outnumbered 10-1, Jake said quietly. But we fight for something they cannot understand, Veltar replied. For others, not ourselves. The battle was the largest in galactic history. Crimson Fleet ships attacked with savage fury, expecting their enemies to break and run as so many others had before. Instead, they faced something they had never encountered. Deathworlders, who fought not for pleasure but for protection, supported by peaceful beings who had learned that some things were worth any sacrifice. The turning point came when Tapar, now commanding an Alliance support squadron, made a desperate choice. His ship was damaged and surrounded by enemy vessels, but instead of fleeing, He used his ship as a shield to protect a human medical vessel, full of wounded from both species. "This is what we fight for," Tapar broadcast as his ship took devastating damage. Not victory, but the chance for others to live in peace. His sacrifice inspired both fleets. Human ships fought with controlled fury, while Alliance vessels provided support with mathematical precision. Together they began to turn the tide against superior numbers. War leader Zextak, watching his forces being systematically destroyed by enemies who refused to break, finally understood what he was facing. "You fight like us," he snarled over the communication channel, "but you are not us." "No," Jake replied calmly.
"We fight because we have to, not because we want to."
"That makes all the difference." The Crimson Fleet was defeated not through superior weapons or numbers, but through the power of two very different species working toward a common goal. The surviving alien ships retreated into deep space, their leader finally understanding that there were some enemies too united to conquer.